Hi friends, it's Deanna Willison from Our Blooming Catholic Life. Some of you have noticed this little stack over here growing next to me and have asked what it is. And then one of my guy friends teased that this wasn't a very large blanket, but it's a granny square. A granny square is a basic type of crochet, just like we had the super basic grandma's favorite dishcloth. That can be, you can make a whole bunch of these, and sew them together to make a blanket. It'd be really thick and heavy. But this is made of cotton. It's a dishcloth, that particular one. You could totally make these out of cotton into any size and use them as, probably with this texture, it might be a great scrubbing dishcloth, washcloth kind of thing. But normally they're put together. This just makes it portable and you're able to use yarn scraps. It's really just one stitch you have to know, the double crochet, or some people call it a double chain. Now, if you're watching from England, their systems are all like 1/2 off of ours. So I don't even know what they call this in England. Like what we call a slip stitch, they call a single crochet. So we're all off on our system a little bit, but we call this here in America a double crochet, and I can show you how to do that quickly. This pattern is super simple. I'm not using up scraps. I'm just using the cream color. I do this while I sit here and pray with my evening prayer group, as well as other times on phone calls and stuff. So I do the cream color first, and then I'm going to add the pink variegated. But you can see how each row actually starts out making a cross, and it makes a bigger shape. So you can actually do each row a different color. It makes a really cool pattern. Again, it's a great way to use up scraps, and it's a basic building block. I'm going to show you something really funny right now. It was one of the first things I did when I started getting back into knit and crochet. I'll say I started it. I have not finished it, and you're soon going to see why. It's really fun though. So here it is. It's on the back of my chair. Why is it on the back of my chair? Because I literally tried to make, without a pattern even, I think, a granny square sweater. You can see how each square is just a little bit different. I did them in different orders, and then I did sew them together. I think I whip stitched them each together. You can see the one problem, if you do every row in a different color, you're going to end up with lots and lots of ends to sew in. Now, some people crochet over them so they're in. You can see this from the back too. It's also really funny because the colors I chose and the way I did it are very reminiscent of actually a baby blanket. The only baby blanket I that survived or that I had, I don't know. Just they're not colors that I would normally choose, so it always stood out to me. Why did I choose that? And then I went and found that I actually had this old baby blanket that for years as a little girl I'd been using as a doll blanket or as a picnic blanket. That's what it really was, a picnic blanket. So I would throw it on the ground under the maple tree. Our maple tree had these magnificent roots. And I would set down this blanket, and then I could prop my dolls up against it so that they could stand up. And then we'd have these little fun tea parties. And it was in these colors. So wonderful. I'm a kid who gets in the dirt a bit much, so I don't know how they knew that about me as a baby, but those colors worked perfect because I really was always throwing it on the ground to have tea parties. This is a little bit more delicate, maybe more of an inside blanket. And so maybe you wouldn't want to use it for that purpose. Now, how do you do it? I'll show you how you start in a minute, but I want to show you the basic stitch. So I'm just going to show you on one I'm already doing. Oftentimes people like to get different color threads and needles. I'm using one of these nice chunky needles. I love these new silicone handles. They're very soft on my hands and give me something bigger to grip on. So first I'm going to do, I guess technically there are two stitches. So here I have a loop. I'm going to pull my yarn over, and I'm going to use the hook on the end. See, there's a hook on the end. So what makes it different than a knitting needle with a hook. And I'm going to pull that yarn straight through. Now I've made a new loop. See, here's my old loop. Here's my new loop. And now I'm going to want to work in here. So this one chain is going to get me over these 3 guys in the row below. So now I'm going to yarn over. And I'm going to stick this hook down here. Peekaboo. And he's going to grab this string. He's going to pull it up. Now you can see there's like 2 legs there. I'm going to yarn over again. I'm going to pull through both those loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull through both those loops. It's the yarn over and pull over 2 loops twice. That's what gives it the double crochet name. So we're going to do that a little bit faster. I'm going to hold it against me so you can kind of see it better. See, do that a little bit faster. Over, through 2 loops, over, through 2 loops. We're going to do it one more time. Over, and then we go under, grab, pull it up, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops. Now I have 3 here. That's how many I want for my gap. And then I'm going to make yarn over, pull through, and I'll have my spacer again. You can see this is just making little blocks. This isn't quite filet crochet. And filet crochet, I might have more than 1 loop there, but it's a similar system, and you can see you can get kind of fast at it. And so it's a fun little project because you're making the smaller squares at a time. It's very portable. You don't end up with like a ginormous heavy blanket on your lap. You're just making however big your squares are that you're making them. Now I'm at my corner, friends. Now here's a trick. I want to make a corner. So instead of having 1 in between my 3 double chain group, I'm going to put 2, 1, 2 chains. And then I'm going to do 3 here, and that is going to make my corner. I'll show you in just a second. And I always pull up a big giant loop so that when I set it down, it doesn't get accidentally pulled or anything. But you can see that made a very nice corner. And you count them by rounds. They're squares, but you count them by rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 6 before I add my pink. That's just the way I've chosen to do it. You would not believe the amount of things that you can make with granny squares. Right now, I think the hot thing is to make these funny little slouchy hobo purses. I don't know. You can make almost anything. There's really cute vests. And sometimes you just make the panels you want for the front and back of your vest. You can even just make a giant granny square for the front and the back, and then you just kind of sew them together. Up here, you can add little rectangles. People just seem to ad lib the little rectangles up here to join them. You make just a little strap, and you may make an extra little strap on the sides just to give you that, the depth of your body. Now, here's how I started. I've switched over to my variegated string. I hope that's okay for you to see. I'm going to do my 4 little chains, 2, 3, 4, and people start them slightly different ways. Now here's the trick. Do you see how this is like a V and then there's a loop underneath? So I'm going to stick my hook, this is the way I do it, into the loop underneath. Now that he's in the loop underneath, I'm just going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through that loop underneath and my original loop. Now I have like a little circle. So you do whatever you need to do to get your circle. Then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You often chain 3 to start a new round. So I've chained 3. Some people do 2. Some people do like 1 less than the height that what they're doing. I always do the 3. And then I'm going to make a 3 double chain group. And the first one is exactly a square. So chain 2, do another 3 group. 1, 2, 3. And you can see that's my first corner made. I'm at the next corner already because there's nobody in between. So chain 2, make another 3 chain group. 1 and 2. So what else can you make with these? I have seen people make full-on Afghans. I'm going to do a video on another day. I'll get out the one that my husband's grandmother made for us for our wedding. Now, it is a little trickier, although she kept with the granny square format. She made some of them look like flowers. So in the center, they might be red, and then they end up being green or some other color for a leaf, and then the background color of the blanket, so it looks like a little flower. I made one for my mom like that once upon a time. It was all these beautiful yellow roses, so they can get 3D. It's normally not the whole square. It's normally just like a little rose right here in the middle, and then some green leaves. The next round would be green leaf, and then whatever color your blanket was. I believe hers was like a baby blue. I don't know that I have a photo of that or where that ended up. She's moved a couple times. But they are so sweet. Now, on that big one my husband's grandmother made, she made some flower blocks. And again, some of them get 3D and super fancy. But then she did quilts. So it's like half of the granny square will be one color and half another, so that they were like pieced together quilts. And she made us a big star quilt out of it. A traditional quilt pattern, but she did it in granny squares. And my son has one that I made him when he went away to college and needed a heavy blanket. There is a really fun technique that you start out with. This first round is done as normal. And then, let me show you how I end a row. That was the point here. So, oops, I've already started that. Okay, did my last corner. Did my chain 2. Now I'm going to go into my very first, my little chain 3. I'm going to go into that loop under like I did before, yarn over, pull through, and I'm just going to pull through. I want to slip stitch. So it wasn't a second yarn over. So the next one, I'm just slipping under there, yarn over, pull it straight through, slip it straight in, yarn over, pull it straight through. And I do it one more time. Not everybody does. Then I'm going to do my chain 3 and start my next round. So I start again at the corners. Not everybody starts at the corners. Some people like to start other places. You do you. That's the great thing about granny squares. You can do almost anything you want. So with my son's blanket, what I was able to do is you do the first round as normal. This second round, I worked in the front loop only for round 2. And then I continued as normal. But then I went back into that first row, and I did another granny square basically in the back loop of that first row. So second row was in the back loop and continued as normal. And then I joined them at the very end with a single crochet around the end. And so it made a double thick. Each of the granny squares was double thick. It makes a wonderful, heavy, and warm blanket. Some people don't understand how they're warm because they have the holes in them. But if you put this between a sheet and another blanket, think of that. That's all going to be air pockets. Super warm, super comfy. They're cute. They're easy to do. Like I said, you can use them for clothing, for dolls. This could be a placemat, a washcloth. So many things. It's just a standard building block like grandma's favorite washcloth. We have granny squares. They were popular in the 70s. They come back like every 10 years. They become a craze. You'll have no problems finding patterns for amazing amounts of variations, but you can just vary them so much just by picking your yarn and doing your own thing. They really are a great treasure. Lots of places love them donated. They're so sweet. So just consider it. I thought since we'd done the knit pattern before, I'd show you how to do the granny square. It's just really working in the gaps. So one round you make the gap, and the next round, see, it's the 3 double chain group. Then it's a gap, then a 3 double chain group in the gap. Remember, on your corners, you do two single chains here in your corner. That's the difference. People do them a little bit differently. Off and on, you'll see somebody go crazy and have a 5 double chain group and a 2 chain gap, and then they do 3 on the corner. Whatever, you do you. You could always add all kinds of fancy edgings. So, like, the possibilities are endless. It's just a building block. It's like the Lego of crochet. And I just thought you'd enjoy that. People have been asking me what those are for. Oh, hey, but if you're one of my nieces or nephews, pretend you didn't see any of this. Just saying. May God bless you and keep you. May he make his light to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the good Lord bless you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.